Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight on KRTD Media. We're doing a special panel tonight. Franco's co-moderating with me. We got Fiorella Isabel from the Convo Couch, as well as Greg Jardula from the Convo Couch, Joe Firestone, and Jeff Carr. All right. So I want to give everybody about 30 seconds to introduce themselves, and then we're going to play a video from Savage Joy, who was originally going to be part of the panel. Jeff, you want to go first?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me. Jeff Carr from, I live in a little town called Eagle Nest, New Mexico, way up in the mountains, the northern part. I call myself a recovering politician. I ran for lieutenant governor as progressive. Got shut down by the establishment fairly quickly. Well, when they found out I was viable. Anyway, they decided to go after me when I was a risk. Been on the state school board in New Mexico I was on for 8 years. I'm thinking about running for mayor in the school board here, and out of desperation because of how horrible the people are. I'll even know if I'll win. They tell me I will, but we'll see. But it's I also taught history for 27 years in high school, AP US history mainly. I have a master's degree in history and extensive graduate work, but a real pleasure for me to be on, Shane. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jeff. Fiorella, you want to go ahead?
Hi, I'm Fiorella from the Convo Couch. I am a journalist. I also do political analysis with Pasta at the Convo Couch. We have our show. We cover on the ground news as well as international news, as well as we started with electoral politics, and we sort of have come to the conclusion that electoral politics is not the way, and we need to focus more on direct action. And speaking for myself personally, I think that it's fruitless to try to push electoral change without a movement behind it that is actually on the ground and doing work to get there. So I'm very much about a nationalized healthcare system, and healthcare is a human right. We don't have the infrastructure right now in Congress. They could have done so many things. Biden could do so many things, but they're not doing it. So it's up to us to make that change happen.
Thank you. Joe Firestone?
Yeah, I'm Joe Firestone from the In-Depth Show. I have come to the same conclusions as Fiorella, that if we're going to get anything done, we are going to need a movement. And before we continue to focus on the things that can be done, okay, in terms of electoral politics, we have to prioritize the movement first. And we have to do things like general strikes and boycotts, things that are going to really affect the pocketbooks of those who rule us.
Thank you, Joe. Pasta, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, well, usually on the Convo Couch, I go first because she's the brains and I'm the energy, and that's how we usually start.
You're the looks.
I'm the energy and the looks.
Obviously.
She's the brains. Shane, come on. So, but no, I mean, just what everybody's talking about, like really quick, just coming into everything, how do we achieve a Medicare for all type of, society where we can all have healthcare as a human right? Well, first we have to fix corruption. No matter whatever we want to do, I think it's all about fixing corruption, and then we can move on to the things we need to do or we can collectively agree on. So yeah, when we talk about Medicare for all, I'm very concerned about what that system is going to look like. I don't want government controlled healthcare. I would like them to be part of the financial part of it, and then we get to choose what type of healthcare we want. So, just a little sprinkle on what everybody's talking about right now. When you talk about these direct actions, I hope these direct actions lead to taking out the corruption that's involved within our government so that we can actually get to the things that we want to accomplish as a nation together, whether it be healthcare, civil liberties, all that stuff. So yeah, that's just pretty much my personal opinion. That's why I'm so about like the general strike mentality, is everybody getting together and going after these people who are pretty much suppressing us plebs. So I look forward to this conversation today, and it's nice being the energy and the beauty of the combo couch with the brains here as well.
Wonderful. So I'm gonna go ahead and Franco, you want to introduce yourself to my audience as the co-moderator?
Yeah, so I'm co-moderating this. I'm the host of Franc Analysis, and I look forward to hearing from some of these speakers or people who are invited to speak and hear how we can improve marches such as the March for Medicare for All, and how we can grow these movements into something like a general strike, and how we can even go beyond just direct action, but also organizing with your community, so that we can take power away from these corporations. So it's an honor to be here as a co-moderator. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of context here for you guys. So Fia and Pastor Fiorella and Pastor, can you tell everybody which march you were at, just so everybody knows?
Yeah, we were at the March for Medicare for All for Los Angeles.
Okay. And
I was around the corner from the March for Medicare, Los Angeles, watching
we'll
from a
get into
distance since
that.
I was removed from speaking. So,
Oh,
wonderful. Okay. And Jeff, which march were you at?
Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm about 3 hours away from there. We drove down and took part. And it was actually pretty good size for Albuquerque.
Absolutely. And Joe, you were a heavy supporter of the whole Washington for the Washington March, correct?
Yes, I was a heavy supporter. Of the Red Berets movement, and also the whole Washington.
Absolutely great.
I covered a lot of that on my shows, and I still do. And I like their fight on all fronts strategy.
Yeah.
And that, of course, would include direct action at all times.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and take a look at Savage Joy's video here that she had submitted. She was originally going to be part of the panel, but unfortunately she had other obligations today. So let's go ahead and take a look at what she has to say. And then Franco, I'm going to ask you to start off the conversation.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey guys, sorry I had to miss the panel tonight. Shout out to Shane and Franco for inviting me. I apologize, something came up, but I offered to do a short video instead, because I still want to discuss Medicare for All and basically our desperate need for it. This is no surprise, there is so much vitriol on the left, so much division. I mean, just going on Twitter for 5 seconds, you just feel like you need a bath. It's bad. And, when it comes to this, we're just not going to accomplish anything. And that goes for groups and organizations and such as well. There is such a divide, and I hate to sound kumbaya, but unless we get our shit together, it's just not gonna work. So, Medicare for All is the absolute #1 issue, and not just to me and not just to many other people, but it really is intrinsic to every other issue. It would help with homelessness, it would help with job security, it would help with hunger, it would help with the environment. I mean, it would help with everything. And one thing it would definitely help with is mental health needs. Right now we're witnessing more people committing suicide and doing self-harm, and more people suffering in depression and anxiety than ever in history. Much of that is because of lack of money, and also lack of the ability to go get medications, to go talk to therapists, to actually have the ability to try to acquire self-care. What is going on with our system is violence. There is no other word. We do have people like the Squad who have been elected on the premise that they would fight for Medicare for all, yet they are silent. And this isn't just about them being silent on our marches. That's not what this is about. This is about, let's say, for instance, AOC having over 12 million followers on Twitter and literally saying the words Medicare for all once in over 6 months. Tweeting is literally the bare minimum you could do. The bare minimum. It is like the lowest bar. So the fact that you can't even do that, that's pretty bad. But not just that. Those who constantly make excuses for them are what's really infuriating. The hero worshipers who, we just, stop being so tough, or Biden's only been in office 8 months, and these are people we considered allies. These are people we've known online for years who all of a sudden are using shitlib talking points. It's pretty incredible. Very disappointing. If anything, right now, we should all be going more left. I've been going more and more left since 2015 than I thought I would. I mean, I just keep fucking moving. I'm not stopping. I just keep going more left. But with so many people we once considered allies, we are seeing the opposite. We are seeing them now in centrists and even going more to the right from there. So it's not just, people like the Squad not supporting Medicare for all. It's also the fact that, say, AOC donated $100,000 to candidates who don't even support Medicare for all. These were donations given to her under the premise they would be given to progressives. But instead, she gave them to people who are already elected, establishment stooges, and has now hurt the chance of grassroots candidates getting into the race because she's already endorsed the shitlib ones who don't support Medicare for all or any other progressive policies. So the only thing that will get us Medicare for all, well, I'm going to say two things. Well, okay, let's break it down into 3 things. Number 1, holding people accountable. You don't do what you say you're going to do, you're getting called out. Period. I don't care. We have no heroes. Don't have a hero. Don't worship anybody. Don't make anybody, so high on a pedestal that you refuse to hold them accountable. Don't do it. Nobody is worth that. Politicians are not your friends. They're not. So that's the first thing, accountability. The second thing is, let's focus a lot more on getting money out of politics. That's one of the reasons we don't have Medicare for all, is because we have people in Congress and Senate and White House who love to take money from big insurance and big pharma. That is a bribe. Every time they give those people that money, they are then saying, I promise I won't vote for Medicare for all. It's an exchange. It's a purchase. And then the third thing is direct action. I know a lot of people on Twitter love to say, oh, what's that going to do? Oh, yeah, you're marching in the streets. Oh, well, big deal, whatever. Well, guess what? It's more than you've been doing. That's first of all. Second of all, let's look at women's right to vote, civil rights, LGBTQ, George Floyd. Did any changes happen by electoral politics? Because I can't think of any. The real systematic change has happened from people saying, fuck this, and getting in the streets. If you don't support people getting in the streets and fighting for humanity and fighting for we the people, fighting for those who are hurting, your privilege is showing. You don't have to agree on strategy all the time or like everyone who's doing it. But what are you going to say when your grandkid comes up to you and says, Daddy, or excuse me, Granddaddy, what did you do in the recession of 2021? What did you do when all the people were protesting for George Floyd? And what did you do during, all the unrest of 50 million people without insurance and people going homeless? What did you do? Well, I tweeted really hard. And if you're okay with that, so be it. That's your legacy. You can die on that hill. More power to you. But I'm not okay with that. And I know so many of you are not either. So it's time to not focus so much on organizations. Let's focus on action. Whether that's with friends, whether it's with, family, whether it's you by yourself. I have been the only person standing on the Capitol steps before. I've done it before, and I know I'm not the only one. This is about what can we do to help people? And the answer is, there is no clear answer. So the answer is we try everything. The answer is we just get out and we try everything. We try marches. We try signing petitions. We try filing the petition with the UN. We try everything. Period. And you're either, you're more than welcome to join us. If you do, awesome. If you don't complain. Everyone needs to get off their ass. Everyone needs to get empathy. Everyone needs to check their privilege. And the thing people have to realize is that, yes, I am disabled. Yes, I did go blind, 85% blind. But I've supported Medicare for all for 6 years. Well, more than that, actually. I just started being an activist in 2015 because of Bernard. But I've supported Medicare for all for years. I used to work in health insurance for over a decade. And a lot of people don't realize that not everyone fighting this fight is in it because they themselves are hurting. Some people, wait for it, actually have empathy. And some people don't feel like they need to wait till something happens to them till they start to care. And that's a beautiful way to live. I wish more people did. So if you don't know who, what, when, or why, the resources are out there. I'm sure Franco will be discussing some of them tonight. And you can always feel free to reach out to me, and I will definitely work with you on trying to come up with some ideas or linking you to things. But yeah, it's at the point that it really is put up or shut up. We're at that point. We're watching eugenics of the poor. The poor are dying. They're expendable. Nobody's speaking up for them. So we need to. So thanks so much for watching, you guys. Definitely tune in to catch more of my shows, Savage Joy on Roar Media Live, and you can follow me at Savage Joy Marie 1 on Twitter. Thanks so much, and thanks so much, Shane and Franco. Much love.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
So if you want to go ahead and get the conversation started.
Yeah, that was an excellent breakdown, diagnosing the problem and talking about the necessity of direct action by Savage Joy. I'm sure since everybody here was invited to speak at these events would agree about the urgency of direct action. So now we're at a point where we should be critiquing and discussing how we can improve these direct action events. So I just want to go around and discuss how everybody give a rating about how your event went at your location, and then give a review about how that event went, how it can be improved. So whoever wants to start, go ahead. How explain where you were at and what rating you give that event and how it can be improved, etc.
Damn. Ladies first. You're the only lady here.
Do you really want me to go first?
Yes, I do.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
ahead.
Well, it's hard to rate an event where so many, good things happen, but so many logistical things that shouldn't have happened. There's always in movements, there's always going to be issues when you have a decentralized organization, which is great. And then there are issues that happen that are out of the control, out of the national org. The national org, I think, did a really great job. The volunteers came down and they did everything they could to make it an inclusive event, to make it an event about getting national health care. What happened was there was a sort of, mishandling by certain individuals. And that really just, it became more about being right and pushing their beliefs onto everybody than about the bigger fight, which was getting healthcare for all. And that wasn't the national org, that was the individual organizers in California that did that. And I don't want to waste too much people's time on that, but I just wanted to say it was extremely mishandled. The way they were pushing this bill, I forget what it's called. It's not really that relevant. They're not Gavin Newsom.
HR 1976.
No, it was
Right.
AB something or
AB 3400.
yeah, AB
okay.
yeah, something like that. 1400, I think. AB 1400. And anyway, it's for getting healthcare in California. We've had one previously before called SB 562, which the Senator Anthony Rendon crushed, and it wasn't going to get through because California Democrats are some of the most corrupt Democrats. They are the most powerful, arguably, and they will not pass healthcare for all in California. And even if they do, there'll be a caveats to that because state by state healthcare, and some of my friends might disagree with me on this. You run into a lot of problems when it comes to making it legal. You have to go around to try to find ways to legalize that on the federal level. This is why people like Nancy Pelosi constantly promote state by state. That's why she says, go get it in your state, because she knows that people in California, especially California, and I'm speaking mainly from California, aren't going to, they're not going to allow that to happen. So it became more about this bill that was dead on arrival than about actually pushing the greater thing of Medicare for all and about attacking certain people. I don't know if you want to say something about how because it was mainly an attack on you. The whole COVID thing too, we should be, and I don't want to say too much on that, but we should be able to be inclusive of whether people took it or not, took the vaccination or not. And we should be not asking questions that are just came off as very tyrannical to Pasta, and I'm not going to speak for him, he can speak for himself, but just on that note, it was just extremely exclusive in that smaller organizational space. Again, not to say anything about national. I thought they did a wonderful job of handling it afterwards, and I appreciate all the work that was done. What was great was that we had plenty of speakers that were very much where we're at about direct action, and we were able to put that and bring that out in the into the forefront and talk about it. And a lot of people attended, and people really enjoyed what a lot of us had to say. A lot of us that are known as being nuclear, for simply saying that we're done with politicians. And so, you know, a lot of people resonate with that because the working class doesn't have the ability to put this on the back burner and say, well, this doesn't work, or stop criticizing Nina Turner, or stop criticizing AOC. The working class doesn't have that I don't want to say privilege, but it is, or that you know, that time to really do all that stuff. So yeah, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, out of a 1 to 10, I would scale it a 3, because I thought the mindset of the national organizers was why they saw us involved, myself to speak, you know, was a necessary thing, because once again, it's about going across, you know, party lines. And I think it was a microcosm of what a lot of Democrats feel that their version of Medicare for all should be versus the masses right now. You know what I'm saying? The one thing that I thought that was really missing out of Joy Savage's speech was about the solidarity. You know, on our show, on my show, on Fee's show, what we try to do is we talk to everybody out there. We're not afraid. We don't back down from you know, from anybody, whether what side of the fence they're on. Even though we consider ourselves to be leftists of sorts, you know, we're going to open our eyes and try to understand what these people are coming on from the other side. And that's why I always talk about solidarity, because there's a lot of poor people who are Republicans across the board in middle America that would want some form of Medicare for all. But what the local organizers saw over here was their version of Medicare for all. Oh, I didn't believe in science. I didn't believe in the vaccine necessarily, or wearing a mask, or what that should be. And that's their version of Medicare for all. A lot of these people also believe in eliminating private insurance too, as well. That's not the Medicare for all I see. You know what I'm saying? Just up until last year, up until 2020, Medicare never covered acupuncture, right? So for a person like myself, who, you know, has eczema and stuff like that, I want to go and use Eastern medicine, right? So I want to go the Chinese way and herbs and whatnot and everything, but it's not the same style of treatment that you get in Western medicine. So, you know, I don't want to be forced into a certain way of having the Medicare for all out there, you know what I'm saying, that can be like more open to choices, which I think is important. And I think that's why we had a little bit of a difference when it came to how we all see Medicare for all. And that's important. And I believe in building solidarity because, like I said, I believe there's a lot of Republicans out there who would believe that funding should go to poor people for medicine and medical expenses that they need as well. They just don't see it the same way. And I think that the national organizers, I believe in one situation, they flew in a conservative somewhere to come speak. They told us, you know what I'm saying? One of the
They didn't
states.
fly anyone in. They invited somebody.
No, they said he flew in to speak. He was a
but
conservative. But it was a
didn't
conservative
fly them
doctor.
in there.
They invited him to speak.
Yeah.
It was a conservative doctor. He had a platform to come and talk. And I think that's important because we have to also, you know, we have to figure out a way to make it work for everybody. Solidarity across the board. We're never going to win conventionally. We're going to convince the other side that our way is always right. It's only going to be met through compromise. And there are compromises with Medicare for all when it comes to conservatives too as well. You know what I'm saying? You heard those polls when they said 70% of all Americans believe in a Medicare for all system. But when you look closely into the situation, they want to make sure that they have a lot of choices too. It's not pulled away from them.
I just want to
insurance can be available. So.
Really quick. I just want to rebuttal to Pasta. I disagree with him on the private insurance part. I don't believe that there should be private insurance, period. I think we need a nationalized healthcare system. Private companies could offer other types of insurance for certain things, like if you want you know, like plastic surgery or something like that. I think that should be a thing. I also agree with him on the Eastern medicine part. I think things like marijuana and other drugs should be included and should be entirely legalized as well while that happens. But I genuinely don't believe any American needs to pay for healthcare. I have used the healthcare system in Europe and it was awesome. But every single major country has some sort of private insurance for something else. But that is in no way in comparison to what big pharma has and
Mhm.
big insurance companies have here. That needs to go. And those people need to not be involved in the legislation at all in writing any of that. That should come from the people. And it shouldn't even it shouldn't be a loophole where the government gets to still dictate every single thing. For example, let's say somebody says, oh, well, you can only have healthcare for all if you take this particular thing. And like that to me is something that I think a lot of people like Pasta are fearful of. For me, it's more of like, you know, being inclusive with other types of medicine like marijuana, psilocybin, and other types as well, which is important.
When it comes to mental illness, that's where I have the most concern. So for instance, if a Medicare offer system could only merit you going to the therapist once a month, and that's all the system allowed, what about a person who needs to go every week or every other week and stuff like that? That's why I would say that I would always want to have some form of private insurance that would allow that person to do that. You know what I'm saying? Until a system proves to me that it can take on the whole eggshell. You know, and once again, I'm about choices. That's why I'm always about mixed economy, mixed type of, you know, systems and stuff like that, because I don't want to take away a choice from somebody else. That doesn't mean I really like insurance. I hate insurance. I hate staying on the phone with insurance. I hate the fact that I have to have car insurance my whole life and I've had nothing but a fender bender. However, I'm just one of those, you know, liberty advocates, I guess you can say, that believes that, you know, somebody should have a right to do those things they want, because I know there's going to be like a lot of hypochondriacs who are going to probably overload the system that want to go more than once or twice that they're allotted. So that's therefore why I always want that choice. And the whole thing about it is that I think we have to have a platform open for these discussions, and that Medicare for All rally should have merited that. They shouldn't have kept me off the stage. They should have let me speak without giving me rules that were specific to me, because I believed in a certain way. You know what I'm saying? I still, once again, I see all these poor people on the streets. And that's something that Joy kind of pointed out in her speech, that it would help with homeless people. It would, you know, people get bankrupted. They lose everything because of their medical bills and they end up on the street. I want to find a way to end that. And that's why I am an advocate for Medicare for All. It's just what type of Medicare for All and what it looks like to you or me is where we might have a disagreement. But the platform to have these conversations and that march was supposed to be intended like people just who want Medicare for All, not this Medicare for All, but Medicare for All in general. And that's what it should reflect.
Okay.
All right, who's next? Joe Firestone.
Okay, thank you. For me, the quest for Medicare for All has been going on for a very long time. I've been for Medicare for All since the Democrats passed the original Medicare bill. I go back that far. I've always been for it all through the years. I've been for the various versions of it, okay, that have come out. The version that has been introduced now, HR 1976, as far as I can see, is the best bill that we've had. It's a gold standard bill. It covers the nursing home care. It's free at the point of service. There are no copays. There are no premiums. There are no deductibles, okay, in this particular bill. But Pasta says he's for choice. I'm for choice too. But what I want to choose is my doctor, my hospitals, but basically the providers. I don't want to choose a private insurance company. I don't have to have a choice of a private insurance company because the insurance company is just a middleman. And the middleman is taking profits off the top. And unless we exclude the middlemen, we won't be able to realize the savings that occur from a Medicare for All system, which excludes the middlemen. Now, I'm not so concerned about the cost. Very much of my work, okay, is in the MMT area. Lots of my writing, okay, and my live streams, okay, is in that area. So I know the federal government can afford anything. But what's going on right now is we are now spending, as a nation, almost $4 trillion on healthcare. each year. We should be spending, if we were spending at the rate, okay, of other nations, we should be spending roughly 2.7 trillion. So from my point of view, we are spending $1.3 trillion more than we have to spend. That in itself, okay, is not an issue for me. What's an issue for me is that that extra money that's being spent is being spent on the private health insurance companies, okay, and on the providers, and their systems of extraction of money are very hierarchical. So the money is going to the top and is increasing the degree of inequality we have in our society. Also, the way Medicare for all, the way healthcare spending is treated in our country, in one way or another, it's coming out of people's pockets. It's not coming out of the ability of the government to create the money, okay, or the currency. That is being used, of course, because it's always used, but it's offset. It's offset by taxes. In the healthcare area, almost fully offset by taxes, which means that it's coming out of our pockets one way or another, either through taxes or through co-pays or through deductibles or through the premiums we pay. It's coming out of private sector pockets and it's going to the healthcare industry. So it's a transfer. It's a transfer of wealth from all the rest of us to the healthcare industry. That is wrong. It is anti-democratic. It hurts our democracy. It makes certain people very, very rich. It makes other people poorer. It leaves other people completely uncovered and vulnerable. And the result of the vulnerability of those people is fatalities. I did a fatality estimate of what the Affordable Care Act actually cost in lives between 2010 and 2016. Obama in 2009, okay, the Democrats in 2009 had an opportunity to pass Medicare for all. No one can tell me they didn't by saying, oh, the filibuster, because we know today, and some of us knew then, that the filibuster could have been gotten rid of in an afternoon. And the Democrats, when they were first elected in 2009, they had 58 senators. They could have given away 8 blue dog votes and passed HR 676 right then. And there wouldn't have been any more fatalities due to lack of insurance inside of the United States. Instead, I calculated 356,000 deaths occurred due to lack of insurance between 2010 and 2016. That's what happened. That was criminal. That was murder by spreadsheet. That was something that should never have happened. Those deaths, trading off those deaths for choice, was an unconscionable trade. There should have been no choice. There should have been a Medicare for all program. Everybody should have been covered. We would never have had many of those 356,000 deaths, of course, except for old people who were going to die anyway. But those were deaths among, okay, the uninsured. It's important to know numbers like this. That was only from 2010 to 2016, but then Trump came into office and we lost thousands more each year when Trump was in office due to the decisions Obama made in 2009 and 2010, due to the opportunities he blew. That was criminal. And I'm not talking about the fatalities that occurred because the insurance that many people had was inadequate. In other words, the numbers of fatalities which occur due to lack of insurance is dwarfed by the number of fatalities that occur because people who have inadequate insurance. So from my point of view, the issue of choice of insurance company doesn't matter a damn, not a damn. If I had my druthers, what we would have is a national health service. But recognize that for Americans, they really want to have choice of providers. So a good compromise and an acceptable compromise, because it ends the deaths, it ends the bankruptcies, it ends the divorces, it ends the mortgage foreclosures. An acceptable compromise, okay, is a Medicare for all system. One that's better than Canada's. HR 1976 would deliver a bill that is better than Canada's. I don't want to wait for 4 years to have a transition. HR 1976 was better than Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill. He had a 4-year transition to conciliate the insurance companies. Screw that. I know the transition can be made in 1 year because I lived through the transition to Medicare in the first place. They had that done with primitive computers to what we have but today. Within a year, we could easily do the same thing with respect to the transition. I don't care what happens to the insurance companies. Okay, I really don't. I know there are 650,000 people who work for them. Altogether, 2 million people are somehow dependent on the insurance company industry. But we can do right by those people through having something like a federal job guarantee. Many of those people would be hired by an expanded Medicare program. That certainly can be done. They can be taken care of. But I don't care about the murderers by spreadsheet who implemented the programs inside of the insurance companies to deny people care all of these years. That was a terrible thing to do. It was an immoral thing to do. And so far as I'm concerned, those people deserve to be put out on the street. But I'm not advocating they be put out on the street. I'm all for giving transitional programs for people who have to have a transition to some other form, okay, of work, okay, or employment. Okay, that's okay. But inside, the emotions are telling me that the people who facilitated those killings should be out on the street. So that's the way, okay, I feel about it. I'm all for a Medicare for All program. I'm all for direct action, okay, to get one. But I'm also all for a fighting on all fronts type of strategy. And what that actually means to me is having a direct action, always pushing for national Medicare for all each day and in every way we can, but also pushing for single payer programs in various states. The reason why I want the single payer programs in various states is because the single payer programs are parts of the movement. They are tools. They are a method to get people on the side of Medicare for all. They don't, I know some people say, well, it's going to slow people down because people who get it in one state or another are going to say, I've got mine. I don't really care about other people. But there are people in those same states who passed the single payer bills who want Medicare for all for everybody. They will continue to work for a national Medicare for all program. But it's not simply them. People in other states who see the single payer programs actually working, but whose legislatures are blocking passage of single payer in their states, will nag the hell out of their senators for a national single payer program because the Republican legislatures in those states are not going to pass a single payer program. Their only chance of getting one is to nag the hell out of their senators to turn around and to vote for it on the national level. The more single payer states we have in blue states, the more regions that go for single payer, because you can have a regional movement too. Number of states can join together and have compacts among these states, which would allow them to negotiate with providers to lower costs still further, to get waivers from the federal government, or to constitute themselves as public option insurance companies inside of the states, to work on sort of a Medicare Advantage program type of idea, but as nonprofits. They can still cut expenses in the states, spending on healthcare in the states, by something like 33%. And when people across the country see that done, when they see people getting healthcare free at the point of service, they're going to lobby strong for Medicare for all. They're going to strengthen the national movement for Medicare for all. It's all one movement. It's all working together. It's all waking people up to really put the pressure on the representatives in Washington to pass it or else, to support the direct actions, and to really make them understand their careers will not survive if they don't pass Medicare for all.
And
Sorry.
Jeff, what would you say about your event? How did it go? How do you think that it can improve, and what rating would you give it?
Okay, I'll answer that question. For the event I watched, I did not actually go to Washington. I am 82 years old. I live maybe 40 miles outside of Washington. It's hard for me to get in there. It was a very hot day, and I was concerned. So I stayed home, but I watched every speech.
Mm-hmm.
And my feeling about that was that the Washington March, at least the rally that I saw, was very well organized. The speakers were excellent. They were uniformly excellent. And every one of them emphasized the national movement for Medicare for all. Nobody talked about state-based programs. Why did they not talk about the state-based programs? Because even people who were there who were working for state-based programs, unlike the people in California, understood that this march was for the national program. And so people from whole Washington, okay, and from the Red Berets movement who spoke at the Washington March spoke only about the national program. They said not a word about their state program, that they had an initiative that they were working to pass. They didn't do what the California people did. They did what was supposed to be done at this particular march, and I think they did it well.
Right.
Okay, so
Jeff,
I'd like
what would you say?
How could it be improved? Well, one way it could be improved.
Sorry, I just want to give some more time to some of the other guests who are here.
Sure, I'm happy.
Yeah. So Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Well, the Green Party actually started the one here. I know they started them in several states as well. The Democratic Socialists of America came in. Some so-called progressive Democrats came in and really tried to take the whole thing over. The lady that started it was a good lady, great heart. Also, the establishment Democrats, the labor unions told their members not to show up. We had Melanie Stansbury, who was the congresswoman that took over for Deb Haaland. She spoke. She did join the Progressive Caucus when she went in. She came out of our state legislature. She was one of the more progressive members of the state legislature, and a little bit more progressive than the woman that she beat out. But she gave her speech. She didn't mention Medicare for all until the very end. She gave an interview where she was asked poignantly about it. She said she was concerned about the cost. She was asked about whether she would really fight for it, or she's just going to put her name on it. And she said, "Oh, she said she would. No, she won't." You know, and she took a couple of photos, ops, and then left. We had a representative there from the state legislature who pretty much did the same thing. I've known the representative for years, and she's okay, you know. And our legislature has taken a more progressive bent in this last year than most. We got, you know, we legalized marijuana and all those things, but not because of the governor. It was because of the leadership coming out of the legislature. The governor is a neolib, big time. She had hoped to be part of Biden's cabinet, and that fell through. Deb Haaland got it, I guess, because of you know, identity politics, and everybody was all excited. Not anymore. You know, it's so in health. You know, we stood there the whole time. I brought my father-in-law, who is 80, and my wife came as well. And I haven't been active or seen hardly anybody in politics since I got out of my last race. But it's what needs to be done. You know, it's we're being attacked by all sides. And well, actually, there's only one side. There's us and there's them. You know, it's the leftists. I used to call myself a progressive, and I'd say I was a FDR progressive. And I was told by Democrats in this state, no, we don't use that word anymore. We're just Democrats. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And it's on healthcare. I mean, we've had we don't have much time. We've been working on an individual state program for a long time, but it's tied to Presbyterian, and a lot of people it's just been all talk for a long time. Each individual state could easily set up single payer healthcare or Medicare for all. And it's a lot easier than you think. And setting up a state bank first is important. There's a whole bunch of issues. I'm more of a holistic thinker. I know all these things go hand in hand to help the people of this country. You know, I mean, for instance, New Mexico is dead last in child poverty. You know, and what we do, and we do have a good Medicaid program for the ultra poor, and they cover a lot of things that other states' Medicaids don't cover. But we still have that gap, you know, in the middle. You know, and I got the best coverage I could possibly have at the moment, you know, but it's just gotten progressively worse over the years, and it's a really sorry state of affairs. I'm on about the same page as Chris Hedges. I think it's going to take a major catastrophe historically in this country. I mean, 80% of the people in 1941 were against getting involved in World War II. It took Pearl Harbor for people to change their minds about it. It took major things to happen when Alice Paul and her people helped get the right to vote. There was a lot of factors. It was right after the war. A lot of the women got arrested. They were abused in prison. That information got out there. People were pretty upset. You know, Carrie Chapman Catt wanted to use the state route. Alice Paul wanted to do the federal route. Both together, it really probably ended up pushing things over the limit. It's going to take, and I think we're headed for an economic collapse pretty quickly. It's being artificially propped up. I watched a great movie last night called The Great Short. It's a great explanation of what happened in the banking collapse in 2007, 2008. And how Greenspan was a total idiot who came up and cried later and said, I was wrong. And, you know, and all that's tied into this as well. I think we need to focus on, this is going to cut our healthcare costs probably by 50%. And if we look at it, and if helping poor people and helping people save their lives isn't enough, look at it as national defense. Look at it as helping our economy, because it will. And all these things that we're doing, including, and healthcare is such an important element, but the Green New Deal and all the other things that go in this, all these things that we need to fund, that we want to fund as people from the left, will help out everything. And then we're talking about mental health, everything. What happened? You've got stage 4 cancer, and if you watch Breaking Bad, and the teacher has stage 4 cancer, and he's like, I'm going to leave my family broke. So he starts dealing meth, and it's, that was, you saw that show, it was a form of mental illness right there. What am I going to do? I'm going to go broke. My family's going to be broke. And what are we going to do? There's so much tied up with healthcare and all the other things we need to do. And we need to focus on everything. And there's all those people voted for Trump thought he was going to give them healthcare, and he, of course, he didn't. And we can get those people just with healthcare alone. I don't know, 5-10% of them at the most, maybe, but that's a big factor. But again, I'm with you guys in the combo couch. I don't think politics are going to be our answer. It has to be a major action, and in order to get people to wake up and get out into the street like we did last summer, it's going to take a lot of people being hurt pretty badly, unfortunately. Read up on the French Revolution. I'm rereading some stuff on the French Revolution right now. There's a lot of similarities. And I think, unfortunately, I think that's probably where we're going to be headed. I mean, some of the first communists came out of there, it was quite a thing. I believe it will take a major catastrophe, and we're headed for it, unfortunately. And it's sad. And I feel horrible that in my lifetime I couldn't do more to do this. And electoral politics on the local level could be helpful too, but on the national level, governors, it's a mess. The idea that voting is going to get us where we need to go is really a joke. That doesn't mean we still shouldn't vote when there's somebody worth voting for.
If voting changed anything, it would fucking be abolished.
We could have a direct democracy in this country. We have the technology to do it. We could all vote on every major thing that happens via computer, and are there possible issues with everything? But we could have a direct democracy in this country. We could do it worldwide. But it's, there's a lot of things going, and I know these things aren't probably going to be settled in my lifetime, but I want to do everything I can do. I have a daughter who's going to have to live through this mess, and she doesn't even want to have any children, and I don't blame her, and she's 30 years old, and I don't, it's amazing. And, we're being attacked by all sides. And right now I'm kind of seeing the CIA everywhere. It's amazing. Once you get into the tip of the iceberg, what the CIA's been involved in the last 60 years, instead of blaming Antifa, you should be blaming the CIA. They've got their hands everywhere, and it's ugly, and it's not, nobody's watching them. But I know I'm getting off of healthcare, but it's all tied in. People are convinced the CIA killed Kennedy. Well, got out of, people think the CIA is going to kill Joe Biden now, right?
Oh, get out of here.
It's like, oh yeah, look what we get. It's we killed Kennedy, we got Lyndon Johnson. Well, at least he gave us Medicare, but it's quite a quagmire. It's hard to keep positive, and I'm a really positive guy, and it's really hard to find anything positive going on. But I think keep working, but wait. I think we're going to see some things with global warming and everything that's happening there, all the refugees, there's going to be a lack of food. there's going to be so many serious issues coming out, and the fact that we're not setting the stage for this emergency. At least FDR set it's the stage for and did everything he could to help us during the Great Depression and brought us out of it. But I know we're out of time.
Definitely, just really quickly, I think we all agree that the march was a good first step, regardless of how some of them ended up turning out. But it's clear that we have to do a lot more. One march in 55 cities or 57 cities or whatever it was, one time is not going to get us Medicare for all. And clearly neither are the politicians. It's clear we can't rely on Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or AOC or any of these guys. They've all sold out. So at this point, it's up to us to do it ourselves. And yeah, does anybody have any, really quickly, I'm going to get everyone 1 minute if anybody has anything to say in closing, but you get 1 minute because we're very short on time. So, everybody gets 6 clips. Oh, we got a little more time? Okay. So, okay. All right, everybody, that's Reef, the man behind the curtain, running the stream. They can't
We
hear
can
you.
hear you, Reese.
No, the audience can't hear him, I don't think. Okay. So, so does anybody else want to go ahead? Anybody have anything else to add?
Yeah, I'll just say something in closing right now. Like, all right, our system right now is dependent on insurance, right? If you don't have insurance, you're not getting health care and stuff like that. But I believe a system that is funded for the people to make their choices, whatever health care they want, will minimize and almost crush insurance. I just believe that's the way to get rid of it, to build a system that is so good that you don't need insurance. But to forcibly say, hey, you shouldn't have duplicative, is that the word they used? Private insurance, that to me is just doesn't go along with what I believe freedom should be and what it should look like. Once again, I don't like insurance. I think that car insurance is the biggest scam. However, I just like a service, like I'm in the crypto, Joe, I know you're an MMT guy, but I just spoke to my mother today. I said, Ma, why don't you want to get more into crypto? It's because she can't call somebody like a broker that she spends so much money with, but she wants that service. And I think a lot of people still want that private service with themselves. So just taking it away and say, even though I think what you said held a lot of weight as far as how these insurance people kill people, literally, but if you have a system that is no longer dependent on insurance will go to the spot it should go to and play the role it should play. So, if we want to eliminate service, let's build a system that says we don't need insurance in the long run.
So do you want, I'm sorry, do you want the insurance companies playing a role in the legislation?
No, not at all. I don't want them to have a seat at the table.
I feel like what you're saying is confusing then. So you don't want insurance companies to be involved in there.
I don't want them to have a seat at the table in deciding what kind of healthcare we have. I want the funding for healthcare to go to the people they want, but some people are going to still want that service, and telling them they can't have that service.
I don't think.
Couldn't that be simply done by putting those insurance workers to work in the Medicare for all system, and then maybe letting people answer the phone, and maybe even in addition to that, maybe getting rid of the robots that answer the phone that are so annoying, and creating another job to have somebody like the old school, like in the 60s, you got the switchboard operator people.
Yeah. I mean, to answer that question, I'm assuming if we had a healthcare system, a lot of people would transition into that system, that governmental funding system. But once again, it's the people's choice, because a lot of people still want the right to get insurance, even though it sucks. I don't want to take away that right.
Why would you want insurance if it sucks?
I don't want it because it sucks. But if you want to convince my mother, my aunt, my uncle that insurance sucks, they still want it. They want the right to choose it. I just don't want to take away the right to choose it. That's like me telling you that I'm going to tell you what's good for you, regardless of your feelings. And I don't believe in that.
Okay. Well, that just doesn't make sense to me, because they have the right to choose their doctor. The only reason they want their insurance is because the insurance provides them, hey, here's your network of your doctor. That's why they want the right. The choice is the right to choose your doctor. In fact, taking the private insurance out gives people the right to choose their fucking doctor that is a good doctor instead of the doctor they're told to choose, which is what happens when you have private insurance. So
Like,
100%.
everybody in the Medicare for All system, everybody who was in insurance, who was already accepting insurance, would have to accept Medicare for All. Now, there's going to be those doctors who are like, "Oh, we're premium doctors and we don't accept
Right,
any
they should have the
insurance."
right to do that if
Mhm.
they want. That could be a compromise where somebody's like, "Oh, I want this and extra service, blah blah blah." Then your mom can say, "I want premium insurance." But to say that that's taking away their choice by trying to keep insurance there, to me just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but they have the right to the premium insurance, is what you just said.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, that's what I'm saying. They have
But
that right.
that's not the same
Yeah.
thing as having private insurance still making decisions and you still having to call them to, because that's not choice. That was given to us in a system where to eliminate choice, because if it was choice, we would have the choice to pick any doctor we would want. Any doctor we would want. I want to go to Cedars-Sinai right now and get the best doctors. I could go there and get treated, period, end of story.
Yeah. Would a national healthcare service allow you to go to them as much times as you want, as long as you want?
Okay, so we could talk about the
Yeah.
set times that we
Yeah.
have, and then if you want additional, then you go to a private
That's what I'm
insurance.
talking
Okay,
about.
but that's not how it comes across. So that's why we're having this
No,
discussion.
yeah,
'Cause-
but that's what I'm saying is that if our system is dependent on insurance right now, if we had a system that didn't depend on insurance, it would shrink and eliminate the insurance down to what it is. But what I'm talking about is the extra stuff that if somebody wanted, you know what I'm saying, that private insurance for those extras, they have the right to go
Of
get
course,
that. That's what I'm
that's
saying.
how
Well,
it is
you-
in
hang
most
on.
countries.
Exactly, but a
So,
lot of
Craig,
people for
Craig.
Medicare for All, they want to
Right,
eliminate
right.
it. So
Craig,
that's
so
Yeah,
what
but
you're
no-
saying is,
So,
if
with respect to HR 1976, when you want some extra services, then you do have the right to seek those extra services, and you can buy insurance for those extra services. But for all the services that are covered by HR 1976, you can go to any provider, and you can go as many times as you want, okay, to any provider. There are no controls on that in HR 1976. Okay, to consider something that was done, okay, in another country. In Taiwan, in about 1994, they were looking to put in a single payer system. They called consultants from the Brookings Institution in. And those consultants at that time were for Medicare for All. When they told the Taiwanese to model their system, their Medicare for All system, okay, on our Medicare system, and they did, and they got to nearly 100% coverage in their country and in their system, you can go see any practitioner anytime you want, for as many times as you want. There aren't those kinds of cost controls on the system. The people there really love that system. They had a hearing on it in Congress in about 2009, okay, I believe it was. The hearing was in, Lynn Woolsey was the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, okay, at that time. And her research fellow was Margaret Flowers. And Margaret organized this panel on the Taiwanese healthcare system. And it was very illuminating, okay? There were papers that people gave. They went into detail about the whole system. The fact that it was based on our Medicare system. And the fact that at that time, already between 1994 and 2000, okay, and 9, it came to cover almost everybody in Taiwan. They were close to 100% of coverage, okay, at that time. Everybody loved the system. There were no bankruptcies, no divorces, no foreclosures, and no fatalities due to lack of insurance. It was our system. They took our system and they just gave it to everybody and they expanded the coverage. And we did without. And they took it and they still have it.
And we can't even get a public option.
It's a tragedy. It's a total tragedy. People dying all these years. And the Taiwanese got our system.
Yeah.
Also, what Pasta was talking about, the choice of insurance company, okay, or having choice if you want to have an insurance company. What do you want the choice of an insurance company for if you can just go to any doctor yourself or any hospital yourself, okay, or any chiropractor yourself, okay, or any practitioner of Eastern medicine yourself? You go there with your health insurance card. They take down the data from your health insurance card. It's free at the point of service. They submit a bill to the government. You get the care. You are not involved in the payment system or the monetary system at all. That's it. Isn't that the system we want? I think it is. I think it's the system your mother wants, Pasta.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd like to see that system work when somebody can go, for what I understand, looking at a lot of the Medicare for all bills, there'll be some restrictions on the healthcare you can get. Like I said, for instance, if I'm only limited to go to the psychologist once a month, that's an issue. But if I had extra insurance, I can pay for it to go twice a month. So be it. Now, don't get me wrong, Joe, if they create this type of system where it works flawlessly and insurance is not needed, insurance will go away. You know what I'm saying? But for whatever reasons, if somebody wants to go for plastic care, and like we said, up until 2020, acupuncture was not covered by Medicare, right? Just until recently, it started getting covered, especially with the opioid addictions coming from, Washington in specific, because they didn't want to give them opioids. So up until that point, I couldn't get that type of acupuncture. It wasn't covered by my medical program until just recently. So I'd like to see a system that will be over encompassing and covering everything, and then the need for insurance will just go away. But to force it to go away.
So my advice is read HR 1976. It's only about 125 pages.
That's short.
It's not that hard.
I'll let Fam read it and she'll break it down. She reads so quickly. And she's much more knowledgeable in this area, as you can see, than I am. So,
Thank you for that information about Taiwan. That's actually amazing. I didn't know about that. That's enlightening. I just want to close out by saying I think this discussion was productive because I think we understood what you were talking about. Because I didn't even understand what you were talking about. I was like, what's going on? So I'm glad we fleshed that out. And this is kind of like our dynamic. So I apologize. But I want to end by saying the focus should be, I'm not going to stand against anybody's way in fighting on all fronts. If you want to fight on all fronts, that's fine. I'm more for direct action. I do think the direct action obviously has a purpose. For me, Medicare for All is a compromise. It is not a national healthcare service. So therefore it is a compromise. And so anything less is really unacceptable at this point. We don't have a government that I think we can trust to implement it fairly. So Medicare for All is the first step. The fight doesn't end there. The fight should also focus on the direct action, should focus on making politicians uncomfortable, perhaps are having not just protests, but strikes, wildcat strikes, since we don't have a really big union type of country would be great. The unions are powerless at this point, and the ones that aren't powerless are pretty much function like mini corporations because of so many things, including ASME versus Janus. And so I just feel like right now the fight is to make the political class and the predator class uncomfortable by continuously protesting, continuously advocating with certain demands out of the Medicare for All movement and out of the attempts to say have more marchers and perhaps go to politicians' houses and do this. I think we can work in coalition with other movements that are growing, like the free speech movement, like the anti-war movement that is nearly dead in this country. that you could relate those things, the focus on war and compared to the focus on health. We need to focus on our health too, because what's impacted by our health is poverty. Poverty impacts our health. And so it's all tied together. This is all part of the same thing. And so I 100% believe in a sort of a coalition of different movements that can lead then up to a general strike. How that is supported is through mutual aid. Instead of funding politicians, let's begin funding mutual aid. Mutual aid is not charity. Mutual aid is different. It is a place where you, a method where you fund and organizing. You fund the ability to organize movements, not charity. There
It's
is
an
a purpose
investment.
to it. Exactly.
Unions
So
have done
that's
that for years. Yeah.
So yeah, that's all. I just wanted to say those points.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fiorella. Does anyone else have any closing statements? Jeff, Joe?
I really, well, yeah, I like the idea of making politicians uncomfortable and continue to remind everybody, that there are servants. They're not somebody we should be putting up on pedestals. They're supposed to be there to help the people of this country, not themselves, and getting rich. And that's another reason why it's like I don't even want to go lobby any of them. I don't respect them. It's like you're begging, and they treat you like crap, unless you're going to give them a check for 10 grand or something. They don't want to hear what you have to say, and they really don't care. They do a good job of acting like they care, but I want to see what you're doing, and they're not doing anything. And I do, we do need direct action. I think that's what is going to take us where we're going. Again, vote and do, for people you think we need to deny the Democratic Party the votes. We need people to start doing that, not just their money, but their votes. They're not worthy of your vote. I don't know one Democrat right now who is, that's in office now anyway. And I'm sure there's plenty of good people there. If you look at the people who aren't in office, I can talk to Republicans and I can have a conversation with Republicans and tell them things they don't know. And then sometimes in regards to corruption and different things. And we can talk to those people. The people who are in office are already corrupt. And God, if 10 years ago, I would have laughed at somebody who said that. And I have, but I was wrong and they're right. And we need to go in that direction. Morally bankrupt is another way I would put where they are. When they're willing to let people die. The worst thing that Cuomo did was let people die in New York.
mhm.
And the women thing, that's horrible. Yeah. But nobody even hardly even talks about that he let people die.
Yeah.
And then we have all these warmongers who are in power and it blows my mind to no end. I'm ready to be on the street. First street action I took was in 1972 to protest the Vietnam War, and I was 16 years old. And the principal took me into the office and told me I was helping kill American soldiers by protesting the war. He's a worthless chicken hawk. I joined the military after the Vietnam because I bought into all the anti-communist crap, that I was fed from the time I was a little child. So it's we have a lot of people who need to be sensitized and to be educated and to burst that little bubble it took me a long time to get out of the Democratic establishment and realize how horrible they really are. And a lot of people are waking up, I think. And I think that is our hope, that we have people waking up, and the younger people are our biggest hope. You know, people like me at my age are far and few between, unfortunately. And we, you know, we've got to get everybody included. And things could happen. Things could turn on a dime quite easily, and history shows us that it does. It seems to take forever. Then all of a sudden, something happens, and we have to push for that something to happen. You know,
Yes,
and
we
let
do.
people know.
There's one more thing I'd like to say, just to remind people who don't know. Fiorella mentioned getting money out of politics. Of course, that is really essential. However, in order to get money out of politics, there has to be a law passed in Congress. Has to be a campaign finance law that's passed in Congress that deals the Supreme Court out of the equation. And there is a way to do that. Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution has an exceptions clause. Congress controls the jurisdiction of the appellate courts. The Supreme Court is the highest level, of appellate court. You can put the exceptions clause into a campaign finance law and prevent the Supreme Court from actually reviewing that law. They would not be able to overturn it. Now the question is, how can we get on the politicians sufficiently hard so that they would pass such a campaign finance law and prevent the Supreme Court from overturning it? I think that's a very essential thing for us to do. But that would stop the money flow to the politicians, stop the bribery. They would have to raise money only through small donations from people. And then they could be made accountable to us far more easily than they are now. It's a very simple thing to do. Unfortunately, it's probably too late for us to do it. We might have been able to pass something like this in 2007 or 2008. But I just don't know how we could do it now. It could be, that should be the objective of a general strike, just to get them to pass that one particular law. Because if they did that, almost all the other things favored by a majority of people would become possible. So,
And that can
Sorry,
only
Joe. I
come-
think the only way is guillotines. That's it. That's it.
well,
I
I've
was
often
thinking,
had that
Joe,
thought myself, Buster.
That's it. Ain't nothing gonna change.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you all for coming to this panel. This is part one of the panel. We have part two coming up at 9 o'clock at night tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Franco, you wanna wrap up here? Is there anything else we need to do?
These conversations are really important. It's great that you know, a lot of people are realizing what the problems are and the urgency of what we need, and we need to get together and discuss more about these solutions, because there are some disagreements about how do we get to, you know, universal healthcare system. Are we going to allow like the government to have too much control if this happens? Because there are some people that disagree with this, but I think it's still important. Like for me, I think it's still important to show solidarity with the people who want some changes now to stop the bleeding. But yeah, I think we should have more conversations with other people who have these viewpoints. And in the meantime, I think we should also be organizing and having some more community healthcare systems, like what the Black Panthers would do, have some more holistic medication. And, you know, doing this would take power away from the private sector and from these corporations. But yeah, the guests, you guys were all amazing. Thank you guys all for coming on. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah.
Thanks
you,
everyone.
Send some love to Reef.
Yeah.
Reef, you're awesome.
Reef.
Yeah, you are awesome. You
Bye,
did
guys.
great.